Okay, a little something different today than my usual video. I'm going to be making some fudge. Alright, let's get started. First thing to do, you take your marshmallows. That's what you do with your marshmallows. Marshmallows do not belong in fudge. First ingredient is 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Hershey's cocoa. 2/3 of a cup of Hershey's cocoa. Here's where all your calories are. 3 cups of sugar. 1. And don't miscount either. You'll be sorry if you miscount your cups of sugar. 2. Lumpy sugar. I don't like lumps of my sugar. 1 lump or 2. Gotta be precise. 3 cups of sugar. 3 tablespoons of corn syrup. I use Cairo brand corn syrup. The recipe calls for whole milk, and if I had thought I would have bought whole milk today, but yeah, I forgot and bought skim milk like what I usually do, so it's gonna get skim milk in it. That's acceptable either way. Whole milk, the fudge will be just slightly creamier with whole milk. I recommend whole milk. 2 cups of whole milk. And we're going to take this concoction, put it on the stove, stir it up a little bit here before I turn my stove on. This particular stove here, it's an electric stove, goes from 1 to 8 and then high. It's supposed to start it out on a medium heat. On this particular stove I always start it out on 4. Do not use a whisk on this. And also, do not worry about all this fudge floating on top. You don't want to stir it real hard. For some reason, that's a no-no. So, do not stir it real hard. Eventually, as this thing heats up here, trust me, all the fudge will get absorbed into the mix. So we're going to cook this, stirring slowly the whole time until it comes to a roaring boil. And then, after it comes to a roaring boil, do not stir. You get your candy thermometer and check it ever so often. And when it gets to 225 degrees, then you take it off the heat. And I'll show you what you do with it after that. As you can see, the fudge is getting absorbed in here. Just remember, do not stir it heavily, do not whisk it, and cook it on just a medium heat. And the longer you cook it, the harder it will get. Whenever I remove it, I'll beat it with a spoon. Immediately when I remove it, I'll be adding a teaspoon of vanilla. Don't use imitation vanilla. Shame on you if you use that. A teaspoon of vanilla and a half a stick of butter. Personally, I prefer Land O'Lakes. Land O'Lakes is what all good cooks use. Prefer Land O'Lakes, right? You tell them. Everybody should use Land O'Lakes. As you can see, the cocoa continues to get absorbed in, and I can't stress enough, do not get carried away with stirring this stuff up. Treat your fudge gently. As you can see, I turned my stove down from 4 to 3. I had it on 4 the whole time I was stirring, gently stirring. And then I turned it down to 3 when it came to a roaring boil. And here we are. There's a roaring boil. Good looking stuff. Ooh, get some steam on my camera here. Now maybe let's get some steam off my camera. Alright, so steamy, steamy, steamy. And you can use walnuts in it, and some people might prefer walnuts, but to me pecans are like 3 times better than walnuts. I bought the pecans which are already crunched up, which is just a whole lot easier. I do go through them ahead of time, just sort of like so, and try to make sure that they didn't leave any shells in them or anything, because you don't want anybody to have to wind up getting a crown on their teeth from biting into a pecan shell. Although it wouldn't be quite as bad as a walnut shell. Walnut shells are extremely hard. At one time I used to take walnut shells and use them in automotive shops and blast the carbon off of cylinder heads. Just a little bit less than 1 cup of pecans. So I think probably you could figure if you buy a pound of pecans, you could do 3 runs of candy and it would be just about approximately 3 cups. You know, 1 cup in each run of candy. Locally here, the pound of pecans cost $8.63. Expensive. Expensive nuts. When our candy does get ready, we'll be putting it in a, I guess this is an 8 by 11 I don't know, casserole dish, whatever. And you need to moderately butter it. Just take you a little pat of butter and just swirl your butter around up on the sides a little bit and in the bottom of your dish. Now, one thing you don't want to do is put your candy thermometer all the way down on the bottom of the pan. That'll give you a false reading. And also, this is actually the second batch I've made. The first batch, I took it off at 225 degrees, and it seemed like the candy could have been needed to be slightly harder. It's still good candy, great candy, but I think I'm going to go, I don't know if I want to go all the way to 230. I'll split some hairs here. I'll go to like 228 degrees, and I'll leave in the comments which way that I think it's the best, 228 or 225, or maybe even 230 if I think it's still not quite hard enough. Still kind of boiling. I've already took it off of the heat. I'll be adding a half of a stick of Land O'Lakes butter, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, real vanilla. Okay, now I'll take it off the stove and I'll beat it with a spoon until it thickens up a bit. This is the method I use to beat it, just like so. I won't hold it up here for very much because it's going to kill my wrist, but there you got kind of a general idea. The instructions say to beat it until the sheen gets off of it, which I never can really tell that much difference in it myself. It always just looks the same to me, but maybe you can tell. The last thing I'll be doing before I pour it in my dish there will be adding the pecans to it. When I go to pour this into the dish there, I'm going to have to spread it out fairly quickly. If you just pour it in there and don't spread it out real good with your spoon really quick, it kind of just mounds up in the center, and you don't want that. You want to get it spread as evenly as you can on the pan. I'm ready to add the pecans to it. Stir the pecans in really good. All right, let's do it. Remember, get it all the way to the edges here as quickly as you can, otherwise it's liable to get too hard and just sort of be much thicker in the middle than what it is on the edges. It's best to get it reasonably even. Okay, and there it is, right there. Let's see here. Take a picture of this sucker here while it's still warm. And now, here's one of the best parts I was talking about. Oh yeah, now that is some good stuff. Hot fudge right out of the pan. Mine, not yours, mine. And here's the end result. Usually it takes about 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes before the fudge is cooled down enough to be able to cut it. If it's not hard enough, to cut in an hour, it may not get hard enough. You've probably not cooked it long enough if it don't get hard enough to cut within an hour. And here is the end result right here. Yum. Let's check it out. Mine. Not yours. Mine. Now, if your fudge is a little bit grainy, you've probably done something wrong as far as stirring it too much, or I don't know, something somewhere along the way has gone wrong. But every now and then, even after you're used to doing this, once in a while you will make a batch that is a little bit grainy. I don't know why, but this batch here is just fantastic. Not the least bit grainy. If they're grainy, it's really kind of sickening tasting. Much unlike this. Mine, not yours. Bye everybody.